Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Indie Show. We are still talking black science with my guys. The Unruly Simeon, what is going on, sir?
Well, I'm sitting here trying to keep my cords from my pad and my phone separate, and I just screwed up.
You know, those things happen. Technology. And we got this bearded guy. I don't know. He's
what's up? How's it going? We have nice facial hair on the show.
Nice hair going. This is a bearded group right here.
Desperately need a trim. He's looking like Dusty Gibbons over there.
It may disappear the next time I go in there, and it may last for a little while. Who knows? So, yeah, we are talking Volume 5 of Black Science tonight, True Atonement. And this took a shift I wasn't expecting, and I am curious to see where the boys fall on this tonight and what they think of this. Only 4 issues in this volume.
Yeah, it was short.
4 issues in this volume. But yeah, we'll give Unruly first word here. What did you think of this volume and where the story appears to be going now? Because it always seems like every time it's going somewhere different.
I believe this is going to give Greg more fodder for his Grant hatred. Especially that first issue, man. It's like he was just walking around stepping on his own testicles with golf shoes on the whole 22 pages.
I mean, before we let Greg go, I will say, I appreciate that, even though Grant is trying to do better, that Reminder isn't just and now he suddenly can do no wrong. No, he's still a fuck up. And I appreciate that Reminder does that, but it's a little trying. But Greg, what did you think of this volume?
Yeah, it went in a way that I was not expecting it. I think the first 2 issues, I was like, I don't know if I'm liking. I like where it went the second half. So I'll be curious to see how they play in that world.
Him being in prison and getting the crap out of him that you like.
I didn't say why. I didn't say that we put him in a mental institution and then he gets beat up. I'm not saying that's why I like it, but you can infer however you want.
All right, so we kick this off, and we're in a new world, and it appears that we see that Pia has somehow risen to the leader of this whole world, and all but being worshipped, and everything's going her way, and then of course Grant arrives. So what did you think of where we find Pia after 3 years of waiting for somebody to come find her, and her position in this whole world, and how, of course, Grant screws up everything the instant he arrives? Greg, what did you think about this?
This is no knock on Remender or Mateo. I didn't realize that was Pia until they said, she's when she basically said, oh, that's my father. I was like, oh, there we go. Yep. Okay. I just wasn't in that headspace. So it took me a while to get in there because it starts out with them with these floating pyramids and I'm like, here we go. Another world. What's going on? But in classic Grant fashion, he comes barreling in, destroys a peace treaty that's going on that has been 1,000 years of war, and they're about to finally just all is good, and then here comes our boy Grant doing what Grant does.
I mean, it is the feds. He didn't mean to.
But if you got a friend, if you have a friend who always is messing up, come on. You're at some point you just go, dude, I get it. This wasn't your intention, but it still happened because of you. I'm I'm dipping. Like, so.
Yeah, we all know that guy that it's never his fault. But dude, what do all these bad luck stories have in common?
Him.
But I have to think right now that either he is cursed just with the worst karma ever, or he is a genuine chaos agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he, like you said, he's that guy that like always, you know, good intentions, but always f's everything up. You know, and it's like at some point, dude, just stop.
You know? I don't want to be around. I'm sorry, I'm cutting ties with you by that time. I don't want to be around you.
Yeah, if nothing else, he has the worst luck of any being in the multiverse. Like,
which explains why it's having the problems it's having.
Yeah, I mean, so
it wasn't like Pia was just sitting around waiting to be rescued. She had it good. She was happy.
She had figured it out. Yeah, she had, you know, she had positioned herself to basically have everything that this particular world had to offer and basically be worshipped.
She was a princess. She found love. And here comes dear old dad messing that up too.
Yeah.
Here he comes to save the day.
So yeah, he arrives and basically stumbles in and instantly screws up the ceremony. But then, even when the people around Pia are trying to like salvage this, he just keeps like effing it up. And yeah, so they have, I mean, I don't know how much you want to talk about like the other beings and all this kind of stuff. Really, for me, the issue starts with their conversation after he screws up the dinner. What did you think of their conversation? The message he's trying to tell her and what she's trying to tell him here at the end of this issue. You know, again, his intentions, as usual, were good, and then he just effed everything up. So
because he gets drunk.
Well,
in his defense, you know, that was beyond his control. I don't think he was knocking him back. It was
literally one drink. But again, like
agent of chaos.
He's an agent of chaos. It's never his fault, but it's always his fault. And it's, you know,
but we can't jump straight to the convo yet. We've got to talk about him reaching into the canyon of cleavage.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
can
we just sound clip that of Unruly just saying the canyon of cleavage?
So you think that needs to be a short on my YouTube channel?
I mean,
clip that.
I've been plenty drunk, plenty of times, and done plenty of stupid things, but nothing remotely like that.
And I love I will say, like, I agree with you. Like, I think the art here in this issue is a little more inconsistent than typical for this series. Like, I did not think the art in this issue was as good as what we'd seen typically from Scalero in the series. But the look on his face when he's like, gotta like look out, and he's like concentrating as he's doing the cleavage dive. It's just like, oh my god.
It reminded me of the scene from Old School with Luke Wilson where he's like spills the coffee on the girl's dress and like he's drunk and trying to clean the. I was just like, oh my goodness, nothing good's coming from this.
No. All right, so anything else from the dinner before we get to Pia and his conversation?
No.
Okay, Greg, what do you think here? What do you think of father-daughter as someone who's, you know, sooner than you want is going to have teenage daughters that you're going to have to deal with? What do you think of father-daughter conversation here?
Yeah, I mean, this was a good conversation, you know, because it is the same aspect of Grant I will give Grant credit where credit's due. He is trying to amend his mistakes here, right? Like he's trying to figure out a way to to help Pia out. But I still think he doesn't grasp in this concept of, though, like, she's happy and her happiness is different than his happiness. I think right now, like, his happiness is, no, you're coming with me. We're going to go, Mom, and everything's going to be great and all grand. And she's like, look, I found love. I'm happy. Like, I don't. And so, like, I felt like that was a genuine, real conversation. Like, I could see that happening with an estranged father and daughter relationship where, he's trying to mend stuff. And she's like, listen, I'm happy. Like, stop. I don't need you messing up stuff in my life anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
but
go ahead.
He's still being selfish. You don't have the right to give up on your family. No, screw that, man. If it was my daughter and she was happy, I'd say, baby, that's awesome. I'll swing back by again in 2 or 3 years, if at all possible. And I'd be off to the next person on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. He still thinks his way is the right way, right? Like, he feels that his way of reconciliation is, I still know what's better for you, and you need to go and be with the family.
He's having something part of this is something every parent goes through, which is, she's an adult at this point. Yeah. Like, she was almost an adult when all this started 3 years ago. She was 16, 17, junior, senior in high school or whatever when this all started. She's 20. Like, she would be off college, like, doing her own thing. And she is at that stage of, this is basically, hey, she's making a choice of where she wants to go with her life. She's happy with her choice. And he's like, well, I think this is wrong for you. I mean, it's a conversation that a lot of parents have with their children, and not all of them pass. And he's not passing here, because he realizes that she's only here because of his mistakes. So it means it can't be the right place for her.
Is this where he says something about, like, not being loved and being loved is, yes. He says it's easy to mistake being loved with being in love, because she felt like, I think, like, he's saying, like, listen, I was such a crappy dad, so now that you're actually finding someone that you're being in love. Like, I felt that was a good, really good, strong panel there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's completely wrong here, but I do think he's not listening to her very well, at least initially here. We'll see as we move into the next one. I mean, because she basically is like, dude, you stay here, you will die. Get in your ship, go home. There's nothing more for you here. So instead of listening, he goes on a quest. Because that's what Grant does. He's going to fix it.
And that's gone so great for him in all other aspects of his life.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So he steals the fiance's horse, and he's going on the quest to get the MacGuffin that will save everything and make everything right. What do you think of this choice, Greg? I'm going to let you go first on this one.
This is where I go, Grant, my man, you're messing up. Like, you steal your daughter's fiance's horse. You are going off onto a mission to find a witch that no one has survived encountering. But for some odd reason, you have not had a successful mission throughout this whole time we've been around with Grant. You think you all of a sudden can figure this out and make things work?
No.
Like, this is where it's like I get what he's doing, but this Unruly said it earlier that he's still being selfish here in this scenario, because if he can fix it, then he can do what's right. Where if he goes and gets the horse killed or himself killed, he's going to make things worse. And, like, it's not going to be any benefit. So it just is, it's making bad decisions after bad. this is like when you're watching a movie and you're like, don't go towards the sound. Like, why are you doing? No, like don't
go upstairs. Go out.
Don't leave your car that it works perfectly fine to go investigate this out in this mysterious woods. Like nothing good happens. But here, Grant, like, no, this isn't gonna happen to me. And it's just like, come on, dude. This is like you're bringing it on yourself. So, like, I mean, this was fine for story development, moving the story along, but it's like one of those like you're an idiot, and like it's not making me feel empathetic for you at all, Grant.
No. What about you, Unruly? What do you think of this fine choice he makes here?
I love the scene where the green guy, I don't remember his name, is telling Pia.
The fiance, I don't remember.
He stole my horse. He's going to the Withering Woods. He stole the map from one of the cartographers. I've gathered the quorum of thunder. We will protect the imbecile. This dude's only known him like a day and a half, and he's got Grant's number, man.
Yeah, Core is his. Yeah, is his
Core,
name.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's like, you know, and I do think that I will say one thing about what Remender gives you here in this world, at least for me, is it is that like Pia has actually found people that seem to genuinely care about her. Like, you know, you're not seeing, it doesn't appear that she's making the choice the way he like what he implied in that line of being loved as being in love or whatever. Like, it does seem like this guy genuinely cares, and he's willing to do what he thinks she wants. Like, he's willing to risk everything to protect her father and do what he needs to do. So I do think that's a nice little moment, and I think it's great that she's like, no, you're not. You've suffered enough at my dad's hands. Don't do it. It's not worth it. So meanwhile, we see Grant makes it to this. He thinks he's got to go to the evil castle up on the hill, but instead he finds this little cabin in the woods. Anybody else instantly know this was the witch?
Everyone did. There's no, like, if you read Hansel and Gretel, you know this is the witch.
Yeah. It was. He couldn't have telegraphed it any harder.
No, I mean, and so Grant stumbles across this cabin. And he's like, what are you doing out in the store? But he's like, oh, I'm missing the try to receive myself to my daughter who hates me, and I got my horse hurt because she's afraid of outs. And I love the old lady's like, oh, a couple of geniuses. Like, she instantly knows what she's dealing with. So what do you think of this whole, like, sequence with the old lady? Because I love how she like calls him on like the little bit of the selfishness here before Pia arrives. Because she's like, don't, you know, he tells the old lady what he's trying to do, and she's like, well, you'll never come back from that. And she's like, you think you do this to earn your daughter's love? Yep, I'm gonna fix this even if it kills me. And she's like, there are fates worse than death. You know, she's like, what are you doing? Like, this is not your path. But he, of course, being Grant, what did you think of the interaction with the little old lady here before we get the reveal?
Dude, now after the reveal, I have to believe that she knew what was going on all along.
Right.
And she's still trying to warn him. I don't know what that was about. You know what
I don't think so. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, is she really not quite the evil thing that we think she's revealed to be? I mean, that kind of confused me a little. Even though or is that just fairy tale formula? You know?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. From the idea, so she even says at one point, you know, she says it when she's turned. She says, I warned you, begged you to go back. Always the same with the intruders. You know, so like it almost comes off as like she's doing this as a way to like, she knows it doesn't matter what she says, and then it almost gives her a justification for her actions, because she's like, every single time I've warned intruders and you all still try and steal from me and still do stuff like this. And so I feel like for her is she knew no matter what she said was going to change anything anyways.
Yeah, I took it as she's not like the people of the planet here as inherently evil just because she's crazy powerful, and she certainly like does something at the end of this, like the bargain she makes. She's not like a pure like creature by any stretch of the imagination, but like she's not going out of her way to cause like she's not going to start this. She's like, oh, I invited you in. I gave you food and warmth and hope, and yet you still steal from me. You know, she's like, I gave you the opportunity to not have anything bad happen. And you once again tried to steal. So you want it? You're gonna, and obviously it's like, you want that? Well, you got to make a deal. You know, the devil's bargain, so to speak. But she wasn't going to force him into it.
But how do we know she's not the reason he crashed into the forever mids to begin with?
I mean, she certainly seems powerful enough. She could have done something like that, but I guess I don't read it that way. I don't read that she's going at like, if given an opportunity, she's going to take advantage, but she's not going out of her way to like cause problems.
I thought she kind of hinted that she did.
Does she? What did I miss?
Well, when she
at the end, when she's like, oh, I get the knowledge of black science. Yes.
Well, no, thank you for ending the cycle, Sojourner. Fear not, my love shall grace you again for the great barter yet to come.
Yeah.
I think she knew all along. Now, I it's going out on a limb to say she's the one that caused him to screw things up, but not too far out on a limb. I don't think.
She does. You're right. At the start of the next issue, she does say, "I drew you to me.
Yeah,
travel all the way to give me your secrets." Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought once you said that, I thought I remember reading them that she said she hinted at the fact that like she was a part of this, causing him to come here.
Yeah. That she laid this trap from the beginning, but she still like. Which is interesting because she still does. She gave him an out initially. Like she did not, when he first arrives. Of course, I guess she knew. Like it appears she's powerful enough that she knew exactly how it was going to play out, whatever she did. But like, it was still his choice that causes all of this. Like, and ultimately, she just knows that's the choice he's going to make.
Right.
Well, a little detail I really liked was when she says, "I want your intellect. I want the key to unlock black science," and it's in the trade dress. I really thought that was cool.
That was fun. Yeah, that's a nice touch from the letterer there for sure. So what do we think of? So yeah, obviously we kind of skipped over the fact that Pia came looking for him to try to stop him, and obviously the witch then uses Pia as her bargaining chip. And of course he does whatever it takes. So what do we think of the trade he makes here? Greg.
Of course.
Oh, go ahead, Unruly, go ahead.
Of course he was going to do it. But you know what? How do we know she didn't draw Pia there to draw him there? Well, never mind.
Well, maybe she did. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like from his standpoint and from Pia's standpoint, like obviously, like I guess to me the things that stood out is she still, despite it all, and despite what she told him, cares. She cared enough to go after him. Like, and trying to talk him out of this. And and ultimately then because he's effed it up again, he makes the choice to do whatever it takes to save her. So what do you think about how their dynamic continues to play out in this is I guess where I was trying to go.
Given who he thinks he is, or to be more charitable, who he's trying to become, honestly trying to become, he had no other choice. And I think any father that genuinely loves their daughter would make the same choice. And even the witch said, remember, I can hear in your voice the genuine affection you have for your daughter.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the witch knew all along what she was doing, of knowing to get Pia there as well, because she needed that bargaining chip to get what she wanted. If she's, if she knew enough to draw him there, and like Unruly said, she sensed how much he actually is at least trying to do what's right, the honesty in that voice, that it's easy then. Like, he's not going to be like a stubborn dad who's like, no, I'm going to sacrifice you for science. Like, she knew that if to get what she wanted, she could make him make a trade by having his daughter in. So I think it's lining up well with what's being told, the story so far.
Yeah. No, I think so. I agree. I also think there's a little bit of, and he kind of says it later, of maybe he has a little relief to make this trade, and maybe like there's a couple things he hints at, but like all his intellect has done is F things up. Like, so I think
he is the smartest, dumbest person around.
Like, he's so smart that he's dumb. Like, and he, like, the things that make him smart are the things that have screwed up his whole life. And I think to a certain degree, maybe he's even like relieved to make this trade. Like, oh, not because he's happy to make this trade because you know what? The stuff up here is the stuff that gets me in trouble. So let me get rid of it. That's just my take. Did anybody else get that feeling?
I can see that.
Yeah, I feel like, again, like he even makes that kind of statement of like, I basically what you just said, JP. So I do think there was a little bit of him like, listen, I've messed up everything else, so maybe my street smarts will start to come in over my, book smarts here.
Yeah.
Well, given the story thus far, I don't think his street smarts are in great supply.
Well, hopefully he's hoping maybe his brain capacity can have room for it now that he's dumb and dumb.
Yeah. So, what do we think of? So they get the heart, they return. He makes the trade to save Pia. What did you think of her choice to go back with him?
No, never in a million years. But I can get it. And I love my parents, but you give me a whole new world where I'm king shit, I'm not leaving it.
I do think she's making a calculated choice in terms of, I'll go back, we'll see mom, but I do think she literally does intend to return. Like, that she doesn't intend to like stay. I think she wants to go. She wants to find Nate. She wants to find her brother, make sure he's okay. Realizes dad can't do shit on his own without effing it up. So I think the choice is as much about her brother and her mom as it is about him. Although I do think seeing him, like, I do think she genuinely realizes that he's trying to do the right thing by this point, even if he's going to F it up. So I think that's part of why she goes. But that's just me. Greg, what about you?
And you make perfect sense, and that's exactly what she's thinking. But then on the other hand, hello, she's 20 years old. She's never seen him get anything right.
Yeah.
My hopes of getting back to my hot green boyfriend just flew out the window.
Well, this is probably true. What about you, Greg? What do you think?
That's just JP, mark this timestamp. That's another sound clip. I just want Unruly talk about.
Unruly's hopes of getting back to his hot green girl boyfriend. Got it.
Yeah, I agree with Unruly. Like, I get why she went back, because ultimately it is for Nate and her mom, and not as much for her dad. However, I do agree that I think she has full intention of coming back, right? Like,
yeah.
I also, there's a part of me of like, she's been there, what, 3 years now? Like, she knows how like untrustworthy this pillar is and the capabilities that it is. She knows full well that her dad has screwed up everything. So there is a little bit about me like, I mean, I guess it says a lot about who she is, that she's giving up her own happiness to try and, with the possibility of never getting it back, so she can go and make sure that her brother is okay, because they don't know where he's at. If I think it would be different if she knew fully well that her brother was okay and doing something on his own, and like her mom was fine. Like, I think if she had that knowledge, she'd be okay. But the fact that she doesn't have that sense of assurance, I think knowing that she had a chance to do something, she would not have been as fully happy with that in the back of her mind. So she had to take care of that before she could go back and be embraced, understanding the risk that she might lose the happiness that she has gotten and never get it back.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think that's where she's coming from here. It's like she's got to like, she has the opportunity to check on her brother, to find out, to make sure her brother's okay, to make sure, to check on her mom. And yeah, so she chooses. So if they don't go looking for brother, he takes her home. Because were you surprised by where this goes at this point? Because I did not expect us to get locked at home, so to speak. What did you think about the reveals once we return home?
I genuinely thought Cater was dead, but what's his name? The guy that's
Block.
The capitalist.
Block.
I always knew we'd see him again, and not in a good way.
Well, we really hadn't got our prime version of Block. Like, we'd seen other versions of Block, and he was always like super evil. So we knew that our version had to come into play at some point. There's been enough people survive that I was not shocked to see Kadir, but could he be any slimier? My God, like, geez. Like, if there's one person that makes you like, Grant's not so bad, it's this guy. like.
But hey, that was his lady first, and apparently he never got over her.
I get, but I both get and think that is like the worst excuse known to man of like, oh, she dumped me, but I'm going to keep forcing myself into her life. Like, dude, walk away.
I will say this, and I'm not going to defend him much more past this. In his defense, he did say she was the first person that he saw when he opened his eyes in the hospital. She went to him.
So, right.
He was back on Earth.
That disappeared with her children and came back. Like, and then he lied and told her that
I'm not saying he wouldn't have gone for it. I'm not saying he wouldn't have gone for it, but I am just saying she showed up to the hospital.
Okay, so I'll ask you a question, Greg. Tomorrow, your wife and girls disappear with 3 other people.
Yep.
You don't see them for 3 years, and then one of those other people show back up, but's in a coma. Are you not like checking in constantly so you can find out what happened to you?
No, absolutely.
So, like, I don't think she went there because she cared about him.
I know, but
he still went there. That.
The way you phrased it though was that he slimed his way back in. She went there and opened that door.
He slimed his way back in by lying to her about what happened.
Well, right.
So he could use it to get like he's a scumbag.
Like, I'm not arguing that, but the heart wants what the heart wants.
I love it that Unruly and I are sticking up for Kadir. And JP has to stick up for the protagonist. And
I mean, this is not what I expected, that I had to be the one that like
oh, he's grade A scumbag.
But, he's trash.
But he does have a little kernel of not asshole in him. He's shown that a few times.
When?
Well, when they remember he originally did his best to save the kids.
Yeah, and so he told himself he did that because he promised Grant. But that was about her. That was once again about her. Because
that's very Snape-like, very Snape-ish.
Yeah. No, he's.
But no, yeah, but basically listen, there are just high levels of dickery going on here. He's not even anywhere near above. He's below the peak of the bell curve of assholery in this series. At least to me, he is.
Yeah. So, wait, make sure I got the right issue here. Where we finished? Okay. So, yeah. So basically, Tia comes home, realizes Kadir is shacked up with her mother and lied to her about what really happened. Meanwhile, Grant gets caught and Block basically tells them, like, you know, yeah, you're going to do what I say or I'm basically going to kill you all. So what do you think about this turn of events here at the end and the lies that they're telling Sarah about Grant and everything else? What do you think about the situation they got themselves pinned into here?
I mean, I found this really interesting and intriguing to see kind of, because there's 9 volumes. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So, you're still going to have a volume of them going to get Nate and possibly other stuff. So I was kind of curious. You can live in this realm now a little bit of them dealing with the problems at home before. I do wonder, and I'm not just trying to play devil's advocate. I do wonder if there is a kernel of goodness in Kadir at all. Like, yes, he's doing it for slimy reasons of being with Sarah, but he makes statements of like, I'm trying to keep a pillar away from Block because of his motivations. Is there actually is there a kernel of truth that he's trying to do that, or he's trying to do it so he can keep Sarah for himself? Like, I get both sides of that aspect. And so I think there's enough good play with it where they're like, where he's a scumbag to the fullest degree, but in every good story, a lot of good stories, you have where the person that you hate in season 1 starts to become a favorite character in season 2 of a TV show or something, because they have a character arc where they have to make decisions that are outside their normal mode. So are we setting up that we have moments and glimpses of that so that there is a bigger character arc for Kadir in later volumes?
So here's my thing. Like, he can honestly, like, for me, like, I honestly believe he sees that this technology is way more dangerous than it's worth. Like, and in the wrong, like, I think he does have a genuine thing, like, where he was trying to stop Block from getting this technology because he sees it as truly dangerous, which it's proved to be. So from that standpoint, I think he's right. But he rigged it originally, like, not to, like, break it so that it couldn't, like, function or anything, so that they couldn't make it work. He rigged it to take Grant to a different universe and not ever be able to come back, so he'd be out of the picture for Sarah. Like, everything he's done has been like, even if he had like, oh, well, I think this technology is dangerous, but everything he's done has been like to get this woman that told him no.
Isn't he just Dr. Doom? Isn't that the same thing? Like, with two.
Or maybe, and I've been flipping through this last issue. Maybe kernel of goodness wasn't the term I'm looking for. He's got a small withered husk of a genuine conscience.
Yeah. It's very small. It's very small. So yeah, we see basically anything else from this before we jump to the last issue? You guys want with the situation we now find ourselves in. Grant is captured. Kadir has slimed his way to Sarah's bed, and Pia is now stuck. What do we like? With no ability to really tell the truth, or without basically being, causing more issues. So, anything in this last sequence here?
No.
Okay.
But what's cool is,
go ahead.
We jump into the next issue, and right there on the cover, you can see how much the world has changed just in the 6 months she's been there. Look at that cover.
Yeah. Like how much they've been basically using the pillar to so far mostly at least appearances to do good, but so
I like how it says block science on.
I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Where everywhere else it says block industry, but like it does say block science for the
block
cover.
Science on the cover. Yeah. So we see Grant is in an insane asylum, and basically being held there until he helps block more. And we see Pia is basically stuck living an extremely boring and awful life. And Kadir's getting everything he ever wanted. So, and so what do we think of this the setup of where we are 6 months later? We also get to see that the brother is real. So it's just, or well, I shouldn't say real, but still alive, which we wasn't completely certain of, because of the way he was introduced. So what do you think of the situation they find themselves in here?
I wonder how much Pia is, if she has second doubts of because they're there. It says 6 months is transpired when he's in that insane asylum.
Yeah.
That she's stuck as a barista now. Her mom is now turned to basically an alcoholic who can't, process stuff. Her dad's thrown in an insane asylum. She's not, she's not with the love of her life anymore. So there is a little bit of I'm curious to see is she having any doubts in her mind of if we never came here, or would she be well, no, because she still would be with Kadir. That's not any better. And so I really want to know what's going on in Pia's mind right now. That's where my head was at.
Yeah. What about you, Unruly?
Yeah. And Kadir still weaseling his way through this whole process, knowing, and he's got to know to some extent exactly what Block is doing. And he knows he's still keeping up. I'm happy. I got the woman I wanted. I got this great life. This is good stuff, man.
Yeah. I will say I was impressed, how well Pia is actually holding this together. Unlike her mother, who is clearly, and I think Kadir sees it, but Sarah is a shell of a person at this point. She is completely jacked up, but Kadir's fine as long as he's getting some of that. Because it's just so we do get it, but Pia is for the most part holding strong. I think she's looking for an opportunity, and she just hasn't got one yet, which to me shows that she is way smarter than her dad. She is okay, I can't do anything yet, so until I can, I'm just gonna play along the best I can. Which is not the best, not completely perfect, but the best you can. So the next sequence is we get to see what stupidness Block is up to in terms of just willing to do anything for a buck. And even when they get this very terrifying monster that comes back and it's oh, we'll keep Like, do we want to destroy it? He's like, nah, we'll save it for later. Like, it might be useful. So what do you think as we get more of Block here in the middle of this issue?
Love it. And that was an excellent point you made, because if this were Grant and Pia was in the booby hatch, he'd have been cartoon tiptoeing up to the wall with a rope and a hook on the end of it.
Oh yeah, he would have done something rash and stupid right off the bat. Yeah.
Man, I love Harlog the Defiler. Bringer of Armageddon. Bringer of Hope.
Harlog
and Block sees it as like, what's his name in Aliens, you know, maybe I can make a buck off of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Wayland Tying group. Oh.
But you know, he's made a lot of money. And that crew that came back, remember, we managed to hit over 40 dimensions and gather samples from each. Yeah. So why is it that Grant jumps through to 1 or 2 dimensions and is causing rifts through all of the known multiverse, but this guy's bopping around and making money off it and recruiting other world blocks? I think we're going to find out, and I don't know, but I think we're going to find out that Grant really is an avatar. He's like an interdimensional pig pen, and there's a freaking black cloud hanging over him at all times.
Yeah.
He's like the schlep rock of the universe, man.
Well, I also think, though, because they were jumping out of their control, that Grant had time to, like, as they were trying to figure out how to get back, Grant had time to register, oh, I'm causing issues that I didn't realize. Mm-hmm. Whereas this guy's sending people in with, and so far they've managed to avoid getting like wiped out, or the ones that have, you know, they've managed to get the thing back. But it sounds like he's lost more than one crew, like doing this, and he's not even thinking about what issues he's causing.
Right.
As long as they come back with something he can use.
He's pressing that button, baby.
Yeah, everyone's expandable. Just like, I mean, it is very similar to like Alien, right? Like the corporation doesn't care how many people they lose, as long as they can find ways that they can make a profit off of something.
Yeah.
We do have a duty to the shareholders, after all.
So the last part of this is we jump ahead to the party where Kadir is getting his big award for being, you know, for stealing Grant's inventions. And we see Sarah is, you know, falling apart and calls him Grant. I love the look on Pia's face after she hears it, like, ah, sucker. But, and we see how he reacts. Like, and this is where I'm just like, yeah, he knows that everything he's done is wrong. Like, but he doesn't care. So what do you think of this final sequence here of, you know, Sarah and Kadir's reaction to her, and how he just goes and like thinks it's like somehow going to make it better by beating up Grant just because it makes him feel good. What do you think of this? How this ends?
How it ends is what made me change the kernel of goodness to a withered husk of a conscience.
Yeah.
Because I think Kadir really does not want to see the world turn according to Block's whims, because he knows it's bad. But he's a selfish POS, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, but again, and we had this talk a couple volumes ago, you know, in his mindset of he was doing what he thought was right by trying to take care of the kids. And then Grant's mistress had, you know, changed up the coordinates, and he was trying to, you know, save him, whether it was just save his butt or whatever. And then Grant basically tries to kill him. Like, he's still going to have a beef with Grant, even though Grant, rightfully so, has a right mind to think that there's no reason that you should doubt that Kadir wasn't trying to, you know, there's a lot of just, they don't see eye to eye because
they don't like each other.
They don't like each other. And if they would have just actually had a conversation about what was going on, they might not try to have killed each other. But in Kadir's mind is literally like, you've ruined everything. Your mistress has messed up this whole thing even more so. Then you stab me trying to kill me. Like,
but no, I don't think this doesn't have anything to do with that. This has to do with her calling. This has to do with her saying his name.
Well, yeah, but he brings all that back to the table though when he's beating him up. He mentions it all.
But it comes down to, for me, is Kadir is just jealous of Grant, and he can't, because he knows that ultimately he'll never really have what he wants,
right?
Which is what, for her to actually love him more. And so, yeah, I'm going to go to an insane asylum and beat up a guy in a straitjacket. Boy, you're a big tough guy, Kadir.
I'm just saying, if a dude stabbed me, I'd probably want to beat him up still too. If I already had beef with him. You're being a little just like that. He doesn't have some right to want to beat up Grant.
Okay, I'm not saying and maybe this is me, but I'm not a person that thinks it's okay to beat up someone that can't defend.
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
Okay, yeah, we've had a beef, we've fought before. I want to kick your ass. That's fine. That I can understand. It's not fine to go into, oh, you're defenseless, I'm gonna beat you to within an inch of your life because it makes me feel better.
Even if
that is not okay.
If that person stabbed you and left you for dead.
Having those thoughts is perfectly acceptable. Acting on them is not.
Yes, that's where I'm at.
Now, but a fair fight.
And again, I don't think it has anything to do with being stabbed and left for dead. It has everything to do with her going, "I love you, Grant." And to me, that's where
he knows that she isn't happy with him because he knows she's drunk and is.
She's not happy at all.
No.
And, yeah. No, I will say what we get here though is Grant's monologue during this. We don't get Kadir's monologue during this. We get Grant's monologue during the beating. And if anything, Grant is beating himself as much, if not more, than Kadir is, in terms of in his own mind, at least. So what do you think of where Grant is at this stage in terms of the whole volume was called True Atonement? What do you think of where Grant has gotten to in terms of how he sees himself and what he's done and everything and what he's trying to do? Greg.
I do think the inner monologue that he's processing is he is genuinely understand that he has messed up everything. I mean, the book ends with him saying, "I owe the whole world an apology for being so effing stupid." Now, the other aspect is still of I have no faith that anything's going to happen because he still messes everything up.
Yeah.
But there is at least he is trying to do what's right. Whether him trying to do what's right is causing more issues or not, there is a semblance of I'm not going to be as completely ridiculously hard on Grant here because of he's at least trying.
I mean, I think he's always been trying. He just isn't very good at it.
But I think there's a difference between trying and genuine. The last two volumes, there's been a shift where he's genuinely trying to do what's right, where he wasn't beforehand. He was doing what he thought was the best, and he still is, but he's at least understanding that he is the cause of it, and he's trying to fix that.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. So, final thoughts on this volume before we wrap this up as we approach our hour mark. What did you think, Unruly? What did you think of this volume?
I loved it. I watched part of the last show, and we were all kind of a little bit pissing and moaning about it was, it got bogged down. I think this was perfect, nonstop, bing, boom, one wild situation after another.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, reading that monologue at the end when he's getting the tar wailed out of him, maybe his intellect is coming back. I'm not saying Kadir's beating sense into him, but I'm thinking those are what the thoughts he's formulating and the vocabulary he's using. I'm wondering if maybe just a random thought that occurred to me rereading it while we were talking about it.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that yet, but I ultimately, just on your thought before I go to Greg, just to finish that, is I don't think she left him stupid. She just took a specific part of his knowledge that he's relied on so much.
Right.
And so I do think there's room for him to like become intelligent, perhaps in just a different way than he was before, which might actually be better for everyone. We'll see. Greg, what about you? What did you think of this volume?
No, I agree. I liked it. The last volume, it was very slow until the last issue of that, where this one, there was a lot more going on the whole time. Again, I didn't necessarily love the first 2 issues of this. I like being in the real world here and trying to solve with the dynamics between Block and Kadir and Grant and how Pia's interacting with her mom, because I do think there's no right now, the only people that like have a semblance of like are genuinely good people in this book, I'll say Nate. We haven't seen Nate for a while, and Pia, right? Like even the mom is not momming like she should right now. Like your daughter is back, who's been gone for 3 years, and you're becoming a shell of a person. Like it, and Kadir, Grant, like Block is straight up there's a no redemption character. Right. Where I do feel like there is still a little bit in Kadir and Grant, very little of where you're like they're redeemable character. They could be redeemable characters if they make certain decisions. And I do find that piece interesting, that whole dynamic between Kadir and Grant. So I'm glad that Kadir is alive, so that I think having that tension and play off of it, because I think ultimately they're going to have to work together. I picture they're going to have to work together moving forward. And that's going to just make for more fun dynamics, because it is completely a cluster of a dynamic between the two of them right now.
No, I agree. I think this was an excellent, I don't know about excellent volume, but definitely a step in the right direction. I really enjoyed it. It took a twist I wasn't necessarily expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I am truly looking forward to the next volume. So I don't know when we'll get back to that, but yeah. So thanks to Sleepy Reader and Kenneth Bird for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate it, folks. And yeah, Perry stopped by for a little bit. I don't know if he's gone or still here, but thank you for hanging out with us for a little bit. And yeah, we will be back at some point for volume 6. I don't know when we're going to make it work, but peace.
See ya.